Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this live stream. This is the second part of the thrillingly titled How to Make a Video for Your Business. I know it's super catchy, but the whole idea is by the end of this very video, you should be fired up and inspired to go away and shoot your first video if you're not already shooting your own video content for your business on your very own phone. There's no excuses anymore, because I'm going to hopefully walk you through in the next 20 minutes, half an hour, all of the elements you need to be creating a video that will drive ROI for your business. So without further ado, let's crack on with the presentation. But first up, a quick little previously from the last video. Now, if you haven't seen the last video, I would suggest you pop over there now and just give that a quick watch, because it really is all about scene setting for this particular video. We cover the sort of elements that you need to really get started on your video making journey for your business. We cover discussion about cameras, the framing side of things, the settings side of things, all of that good stuff. So definitely make sure that you check that out. We also started talking about lighting, although in the last video, it was all about using natural light. So if you don't have any lighting kit, you've got no need to worry, because in this video, we'll be talking about sort of elemental lighting kits. In the previous video, we discuss everything you need to know about how to use and harness natural light for your videos. So like I say, this is really the sort of entry-level video making with your phone, so that there's going to be no excuses. There's going to be no barriers certainly from an equipment standpoint. I really, really want to encourage you, if you've done your legwork and you know what you're talking about, you've done all your topic research, and you have identified your audience, and you're really crystal clear as to who you're talking to and the value you're going to impart to your audience. As long as you've done that, watch this video, and then you will have everything you need to start creating content. That is what we want to be doing. Like I said before, we had the discussion all about framing in the previous video too. So if you need to know anything about that, then definitely give the previous video a quick look to make sure that over these two videos, you've got the complete requisite amount of information you need to make things happen for you. Right, first things first, sound is critical. And it really destroys me every time I have to admit that, because obviously in my day job, and historically, my professional heritage is one of TV broadcast cameraman. So to admit to you fair folk that actually it's the sound that's important, it destroys me every single time. If you can't hear someone, no matter how beautiful the picture looks, they are going to leg it. So they're going to leave and go off and do something else within seconds, and you're never going to get them back. So nothing loses viewers quicker than bad sound. So make sure you invest in decent microphones. Please don't use the mic that's on your phone, because it's not directional enough, and you can hear all sorts of extraneous noise that you're not going to want to hear. As a viewer, you want to be zeroed in on the presenter, on the person who's in the center of your frame, which is what the story is all about. You want people to be concentrating on what you have got to say. 1 2 1 2. So let's look at the basic types of mic. We're not going to go into a massive amount of detail about all of these ones. This is more of a kind of bird's eye view of the type of microphones that exist to help you create really crystal clear sound for your videos. Okay, first up, you've got the personal or lavalier mic, and I shall show you that. That's one of these ones, and they plug in to your phone. They're this little clip mic things that work very well. They're very good because they are obviously very close to you. You'd clip them near your face effectively. So they're super directional, and you'll get a very present kind of audio from whoever is speaking. It's very, very a good way of making sure you can hear what is going on. You've also then got something like this, which is a sort of podcasting type mic. You've also got ones which are freestanding. I'm thinking along the lines of the Blue Yeti mics, which are freestanding on the desk. They're very good podcasting mics. You've also got radio mics, which we'll go on to in a bit more detail, because They they require a bit more investment in terms of money. But if you're doing a lot of video content and you're also doing video content where you're walking and talking or you're on location, I would suggest that you invest in an entry-level kind of system. Typically, from a broadcast point of view, you know, the Sennheiser mics that I use on a daily basis, they started around about £500, which would be about $600 ish. There are, however, for the kind of stuff that I'm talking about doing for you guys now on a phone, there's a great company called Rode. They do a thing called a Rode Go. We'll go into it in a bit more detail, but they're much more around the sort of £130 mark. As I say, we'll cover those off in a second. You've then got this kind of setup, which actually, although it's not quite in shot, it's actually a studio mic on a boom arm. It's all fully isolated. You know, if you're doing a lot of vlogging or a lot of video podcasts, this kind of setup would be ideal for you. You've also then got the kind of handheld mics like you see on telly where people are interviewing. They are great if you're doing sort of run and gun interview setups. For example, if you were to do interviews at a conference or at a sort of an event, and you're sort of more like doorstepping people in the sense of, oh, look, there's so-and-so over there, let's quickly go and have a chat with them. You haven't got the time necessarily to be faffing around trying to, you know, put a microphone on them because they're literally, or grabbing them as they go off and do something else. If that is the kind of thing you'll be doing, then a handheld mic is absolutely, that would be the ticket for what you're after. That again, they're very directional, so they'll pick up the noise in a certain direction. So and obviously ideal for doing interviews on the fly like that, as I say, at conferences or events of that sort of thing. Also, then you've got boom mics. Now, we're not going to go into any of this, but just for the sake of sort of completeness, boom mics, you know, we use them in TV land, for dramas, stuff like that. Very unlikely you're certainly not going to need one for your phone. Very unlikely that in sort of your day-to-day video making, video creating life, you would need one. At some point, I will do a specific video all about the different types of microphones and delve a lot more deeper, so that, you know, if you do want to know more, you'll be able to get more information from our channel. Incidentally, looking at the channel, what would be amazing is if you look at the bit.ly link down below, you can see business-growth-with video. That is our YouTube channel. It is rammed to the gunnels with lovely video resources, all squarely aimed at getting business owners and entrepreneurs and marketers like yourselves up to speed in the world of video marketing. So if you want to understand more about video marketing and how you can harness the power of video and how you can make video really genuinely work for your business and your business goals, then I would suggest you pop over there. There are loads and loads of videos all designed to help businesses and business owners, entrepreneurs like yourself. So that was a very unsubtle pitch. So what mics would you put on to a person? So we've talked about obviously the lavalier mics or the clip mics. This is what they look like. Obviously on the top left there, that's where you'd want to kind of situate a microphone. You can see the close-up of it bottom left, and you would then plug the plug end of it into your phone. Now, in some circumstances, obviously all phones are different. You'd need to check it out depending on your actual make of phone. For example, I know that the iPhones do require a little adapter from the little outputs there. It's not the same plug. It wouldn't plug straight into your phone. It'll go via an adapter, so you'd need to check that out. These are brilliant microphones. They're discreet, they're very directional, and if you're outside, what you would put on it is a little fluffy thing, which is known as either, funnily enough, called a fluffy, or it's also known as, it's a lovely name, it's called a dead cat, but basically it's a wind gag. It cuts out the wind noise. So if you're doing anything outside with a clip mic like that, where you're clipping it onto the outside of someone's shirt or what have you, definitely put a wind gag on it. Otherwise, as I say, you'll be hampered by having a lot of wind noise. If it was just with the foam outer, like you can see there, that doesn't actually cut out the wind noise at all. You'll need to have that fluffy. And again, if you're outside with no fluffy and you get loads of wind noise, people will only put up with it for a very short amount of time before they get bored. They can't hear it, disrupts it, they'll be off, and you won't have any viewers. This Rode Plus lavalier mic is fantastic. That retails for around about £55 or $60. However, you can get generic no brand type lav mics from about the £15 mark. I've used one which is from Amazon, which was about that sort of $20 kind of mark. It's fine for starting out. So absolutely start out at that level. But to be honest, if you're creating video content on a sort of regular basis, that is something that I would suggest that you invest in fairly sharpish, a decent mic. The £20 ones are fine, but they do have their limitations, and you can hear the slightly less quality aspect of them. At the end of the day, it's horses for courses, depending on kind of what you want. Right. So if you are wanting to not clip something on you for whatever reason, how would you go about capturing the sound? Well, there's these amazing directional mics that you can get. You can see there on the left-hand side. They will clip straight onto your phone and create some really, really good sound for you. The one on the left, which is called the Video Mic Me, again, it's Rode. Rode do some really good entry-level sound equipment. There are other companies that other creators on YouTube use. One that springs to mind is Deity. Deity mics are always very good. You know, there are a number of them, Sennheiser as well, that they tend to do stuff which is a bit more broadcast. Although they do at their lower end, they do offer some amazing quality mics as well. They're just a little bit more on the expensive side. The great thing about these mics is they're super directional. So if you're filming someone, your microphone is pointing straight at them, then you're going to capture some great sound with something like the Video Mic Me. They're a really, really good starter mic. They're much better quality sound, much better quality sound than the inbuilt mics. They're super portable, and they are plug and play. So you can see there, it will just go into the audio jack, clip onto your phone. They obviously do different flavors depending on what phones you're plugging them into. Obviously that's an Android one, but they do ones with the Apple jacks as well. They retail, they're slightly more expensive than the lav mics. They're around £55 or $60-ish. Then at the bottom there, you've got Zoom mics. Now, Zoom are an amazing company. They do these great recorders. Now, what they've cleverly done is they've actually obviously created an app which you can have on your phone, which turns your phone into a Zoom recorder. So you just clip the microphone attachment into your phone, and then you have got a really good quality entry-level stereo recording thing. This copes in loud environments. So, for example, if you're doing something with music involved, you're trying to capture, an acoustic concert or an acoustic performance, or you're trying to capture someone singing, for example, these really do have the capability. You've got a lot more kind of flexibility to alter the inputs. So for that kind of thing, they're very good. They're also, in terms of what we're talking about, probably more relevantly, actually for interviews, they are great, because as you can see on the top there, they've got two microphones, and what you can do is effectively a stereo for a stereo recording, right? So what you can do there is you can point each mic at a contributor. Now, this does not mean you can be 75 foot away from each other in these socially distanced times. That won't work. However, imagine if you are, within a meter or so of the person you're talking to, one mic's pointing toward them, one mic's pointing toward you. That will be a perfectly acceptable setup, and will capture some really decent sound for an interview setup. So that is your other option there. The Zoom IQ6 is what that picture is of. They retail, they're slightly more expensive than those directional phone mics. They started around £95, which is around about the $100 mark. So in terms of radio mics, we're then looking, like I spoke about earlier, the Rode Go. These are absolutely brilliant if you're on the go, or if you don't fancy the idea of having a wire trailing from the phone to your lapel mic. They're really, really good quality radio mics. They're very, very easy to use. They're pretty much plug and play. Now you can either use, they've actually got a little built-in mic at the top of the receiver unit, or sorry, of the mic unit. But you can also combine it. There's an input which you can plug in a lavalier mic as well. So if you didn't want to have, like you see in the picture on bottom right there of the lady, you can actually see she's got a big old chunky mic there on her top. If that is not what you want it to look like, then what I'd suggest is you use the external port and you plug in a lavalier mic, which you can then hide in a subtle way, and then effectively that just becomes the mic receiver pack. These setups are fantastic value. You know, like I said before, you know, a broadcast kind of setup, you're looking at anything from about £500, $600. These little bad boys are available from £135. That is not equivalent actually to $20 at all. It's more like $145, $150. So ignore that typo there. Apologies for that. So we're looking at, there you go, there is the setup top left there of the Video Mic Me. But in terms of an audio checklist for phone shooting, check out before you start. You know, I'm all about wanting to empower you guys to get out and start recording, but before you do, make sure that you've got all the requisite equipment, the bits that you need to make all the elements. So in terms of talking about mics, do you need any adapters? Have you got the right ones? And also make sure you've done a test record before you obviously do it in anger. If you're filming outside, like I said before, make sure you've got a wind gag, a fluffy or a dead cat, whatever you want to call it, but make sure you've got the right bits to pop on the top of the mic to make sure that you don't get any unwanted wind noise. Otherwise, pretty much with the merest of gusts, it will mean that your sound becomes unbearable for the viewer, and again, they will leg it off your content like you wouldn't believe. So also, this is a slightly more techie / geeky thing, but make sure that the phone supplies phantom power. That means that some of the mics, if they're just like a lavalier mic like this, obviously there's no batteries or anything in that. So what you need to make sure is that the phone is powering the microphone. Now, in most cases, that's fine because they do, but just double check that before and make sure you buy the right type of microphone for your phone. So I would suggest, in terms of Googling, that you Google your phone type and then microphone, you know, or microphone accessory, something along those lines, and that would steer you in the right direction. Also, don't forget, if you're going out and you're recording stuff, you're going to need to hear it back because, again, like I said before, you want to do a test record before you go for your main take, okay? You're going to need some headphones so you can hear the sound and check that everything's all right, because frankly, listening into it like that on the speakerphone is not going to give you a really good indication of how well it is recorded or otherwise. So definitely take some headphones with you so that you can listen back and you get a decent impression of what you have captured. Right, now, let there be light. We're on to the lighting chat now, people. We don't want things like this happening. I mean, so you get dished up with a video like this, and my eye is going straight to the background because that's what's lit. What I'm not looking at is what the main event is, which is this chap who's presumably going to wax lyrical and tell me lots of really useful information about stuff I need to know about. It's a really, really terrible setup because he's got his back to a window, which is bright. So obviously the camera is exposing for outside, not inside. So he becomes a silhouette. This is what we want to avoid. We want to say no to this. We want to make our content look great, even if we're shooting on our phones. So this is what we need to be looking at. Basic lighting from the front, ring lights. Why from the front, you may ask? Well, if you've got one light, you want to put it right at the front of you and you want to put it slightly above you. If it's slightly above, it's much more flattering and you're going to soften the shadows out across your face, and you're going to get rid of all those blemishes. It's just very flattering. It will wrap around your face and much more. Like I say, minimizes shadows, it flattens the features, and it hides any blemishes. You obviously, in that setup, if you've got one light, you're making the most of it. Like I said before, if you light from slightly above the eye line, it's very, very flattering. Also, like I said in the last video, you want to make sure that your camera as well is slightly raised above your eye line. It should absolutely not be below the eye line. We talk about all of that good stuff, eye lines, in the last video. If you've not seen that, definitely check that out. Lighting from the top above as well, it will avoid, like you see the bottom right there, that lovely lady, she's got a big shiny spot in the middle of her forehead. That is known as a hot spot, and the reason that is because the light is blatting at her from quite a low angle, and it's just reflecting off her skin. So if that was raised slightly, it would diminish the hot spots. So I would suggest you absolutely do that. Also, kit-wise, what are we talking about? Well, this guy here, you can see beautifully lit with one light. You can see the ring reflections in his eyes. So he's been lit by one of these things, bottom right, a ring light. They are very flattering lights, and they're the sort of lights that are used on a lot of beauty tutorials. Historically, they were used in portrait photography because they are a very pleasing and flattering light. On the bottom left there, you can see a couple of soft boxes, a ring light setup like the one below. Sometimes they come just with the lights on their own. So make sure that if you're buying a kit, it is a kit and it does come with a stand. Otherwise, if it's just the light on its own, make sure you order it with the stand as well. The ring light setup will cost you around about £80, and you can get them. There's lots of suppliers. I'll pop some details in terms of the products that we're talking about in this video. I'll pop them all in the description below. So if you want to get any particular thing we're talking about, I'll give you a link and you can go and purchase them should you desire to. As I say, always when you're starting out with lighting, start with soft lighting first. It's much more complementary and it's a lot easier to sculpt with, frankly. If you start getting into theatre lighting, hard sources, all of that stuff, it's a lot more involved. You cast lots of hard shadows. It's just in terms of if you're wanting to begin as a beginner, you want to start with soft lights. So ring lights or lights with soft boxes on them are definitely the place for you to start. In terms of the two light setup, in terms of the two light setup, you can see here, you've got a side-by-side. On the left-hand side, this is a lady who has been lit with a ring light setup. Now, cast your mind back a couple of seconds ago to that gentleman stood in shadow in front of a bright background. So, and then look at this lovely lady on the left hand here. All we need really to illuminate someone in a flattering way is a ring light. Imagine if that guy had not been stood in front of a window, but was stood in maybe, you know, separation away from a wall, but lit nicely by a little bit of daylight and a little bit of artificial light. It would have made the world of difference. So on the left there, you can see what it looks like when you're lit with a ring light there. It's very flattering, very, very flat light. You know, not many shadows at all there. Suddenly you go to the right hand and you can see a two light setup. Now that for me, it looks lots more, it's a lot more nuanced. It looks more natural, frankly. You're getting the introduction of shadows and it's a slightly more refined looking image. Now, for what we're talking about, I don't want to overcomplicate things. This is all about trying to empower you to go and start creating video. So to start with, the ring light setup, the one light setup is absolutely fine, because in that you can see the story is all about her. She's the brightest thing in that frame, which is absolutely brilliant. That's what you want to aim for to begin with. We can grow, we can develop, we can experiment with our lighting setups as we go, and as we, you know, create more video and create more content. We can get better, 1% better with every upload. We don't need to wait until we're a lighting expert to start creating video. We need to start creating as soon as we can. Absolutely. Now, the other thing you can do as well with just one light is to use reflectors to effectively, so you could light one side of you and then bounce some light back into the subject. You know, that is a really good way of working. So if you have got one light and you're putting it off to one side, then I would suggest you can just be a little bit of white card. Now, obviously the shot would need to be relatively tight so that you could get the card in quite tight to the face so that you're getting some benefit from it, but it will just lift the shadows in the face. And you can see on the right hand there, it just lifts it and it just looks a really polished image. So that's a really good way of augmenting a one light setup for you. Now let's talk about shooting locations. Location. You need to plan where you're going to shoot. Don't just bowl up somewhere and hope it's going to be okay. You need to give it a little bit of thought. And if you do give it some thought, you will absolutely end up with a better product at the end of it. So first things first, is it suitable for your content where you're going to shoot it? Does it make sense? So for example, if you're doing a cooking show or doing something about, you know, cooking, you know, logically, it would make sense for you to be in a kitchen, right? Rather than in your shed or in a garage or in a garden. So just think about logically what people would expect, where they would expect you to be delivering the content that you're talking about. Because people will instantly take cues off, oh, they're in a kitchen, this is going to be a cooking thing, even before you've uttered your first word. By the way, guys, I know it's been a little bit late coming, but if you're getting value from this video, which I really, really hope you are, definitely please tickle that little like button, or even better, just press it. That would be amazing. Also, if you're wanting some really good content like this, really useful kind of how-tos, and there's also loads of strategy and planning kind of insights too. All of that good stuff is on our YouTube channel down there. There's the bit.ly link. So definitely check that out. And if you like that kind of thing, I'd love to have you part of our community. So definitely think about subscribing. Onwards. Also, you need to think about, I know I'm sort of really sort of urging you to crack on and create your own content. There is a balance between being prepared and thought and having thought through your content. And this goes for absolutely what we're talking about now, which is obviously this sort of more hands-on how to shoot something. But also you need to have done all of that preamble, planning, strategy, understanding who you're talking to, your audience, what are the goals behind the video, all of that stuff. You need to do all of that, and you need to consider about your video content. Ultimately, you're putting it out there. People are going to judge your business on the basis of what they see in terms of your video content. So you need to ask yourself, does it say the right thing about your brand or business? And in terms of getting terribly excited and carried away about doing this, that, or the other type of format, I would always say, I'd urge you, before you get carried away and press record and then do something that perhaps jars with your brand look and feel, just take a second and ask yourself objectively, in the cold light of day, does this do you a favor as a business, this kind of content? If it does, absolutely crack on. And I'm not saying that you should be stayed or stuck in the mud about what you're doing, but you just need to bear in mind that your video content is an extension of your brand. If it doesn't make sense in terms of it doesn't align with your brand values and your brand look and feel, it's going to jar and it's going to confuse your viewers. And as the old adage has it, confused minds never buy. So if people are confused, if your audience are confused about you and your value proposition, it will undermine any trust they feel towards you. And obviously that is something you do not want to be doing, because the whole point of creating video content is to foster relationships and build that know, like, and trust with your audience. So back in the room, back in location land, lighting. What lighting is there in the location you're shooting in? Is there natural daylight? Sound, always critical. So many times as a cameraman in my TV life, you know, we get wheeled into places that frankly we've got no business being there. it's really loud, there's a really loud air conditioning thing that can't be turned off, you know, or there's a disco next door or whatever. Always walk into a room, look at it, absolutely assess the aesthetics, assess whether there's light coming in. That looks great. Oh, that's fantastic. But then make sure, please make sure you stand there in silence for a second and listen. Listen. Are there planes going? Are you under a flight path? Is there a construction site next door? You know, be aware of these things, because when you've got all your kit and you're all G'd up, ready to go and shoot your material, and suddenly you realize that there's, you know, a new railway line being built 3 foot outside the window, it's going to completely decimate the effort you're putting in to making this really good quality video content. That is the end of my little sound rant, but it's so important, and it so honestly, all the time it gets overlooked. And you can't, if you've got rubbish sound, there's so little you can do in post-production about it generally. So my advice is always take the time to get the sound and picture, but get the sound right from the word go. It has to be in the front of your mind in terms of assessing whether a location is worth shooting in or not. Also, something again that gets overlooked a lot, and it's something that you should absolutely, as a video creator, be aware of. Now, it may, you know, you may not come a cropper, but if you start filming in places like London and you start putting tripods on pavements and there are police there, you will get told off, because if you're creating an obstruction by putting, which is what you're doing, by putting a tripod down there, and you have not got permission, i.e. you've not got a filming permit from, in that case, it would be Westminster or whichever borough you're in, then you're in big trouble. So just be conscious of where you're deciding to film. Is it private property? Do you need to speak to someone before you merrily start filming? Also, and this comes on to the last thing, are there things in frame that people don't want to be filmed? You know, if you're doing a live stream like this, is there anything in the background that is giving anything away, or you shouldn't really be filming, or you wouldn't want to be filmed? Just think about that before you trot off and start making your video masterpieces. So let's have a little recap. What do you need to make video? You obviously need your camera, but you've got that. You've got a phone, which is what we were talking about. Tick. Good. Next, light. Yeah, we've got daylight, and actually now we know how to basically light using a ring light or a couple of soft boxes or whatever, but we can start lighting with artificial light with just one gorgeous light. Tick. Then sound. We understand how important sound is. We understand about lavaliers and all of that and where to place them. We also know about things like radio mics. We also understand if we're shooting outside, we need wind gags, all of that good stuff. Tick. Right. What are you waiting for? There's no need to be terrified. Press record. Now, like I was saying, the whole point of this little mini video series is that I want to give you the confidence to start recording. You don't need to wait until you've bought your £7,000 camera with its £14,000 lens and your 35-piece light kit. That doesn't need to happen. Guys, get out there. So long as you know what you're talking about, who you're talking to, so you're crystal clear. I know I keep going on about it. It's so important. Crystal clear about your audience, and you're absolutely dialed in to creating video content and delivering value to your audience. As long as you're there mentally and you're in that headspace, then absolutely take the plunge and press record. Listen, don't worry. I know it's so easy. There are so many reasons not to press record, right? I've been there. It's taken me 3 years to get the courage up to start creating these little videos for you. I understand, I empathize with you, but at the end of the day, you are the one. You've got all your expertise, you've got so much knowledge in your head, and it's your duty almost to let that knowledge and share that knowledge with your audience, because there are people out there that want to know what you have to offer and want to you know, share in the knowledge that you've got. So you're not necessarily going to start and be amazing at it. the back doesn't matter, because actually so long as the value you're giving is really worthwhile people sticking around for, then, you know, if the picture's a little bit wobbly, or the lighting's not amazing, or the, you know, the sound needs to be good, right? Sound needs to be good. But, you know, people will overlook a lot so long as they're getting value from your videos. You need to make sure that at every single turn, you are delivering massive value to your audience. If you're doing that, you're doing a lot right. And you can, you know, it takes time. It's a journey. Like I've said before, it's a learning journey. And if you get better incrementally on every single time you press record, you know, upload it, let it do its thing, and then learn from it. You know, every time I'm doing something, I'm learning all the time. That's why I love creating videos. I've been doing videos and making video in TV for 20 years, and there's never a shoot that goes past, never a day that goes by without me learning something. So it is a big learning journey, ladies and gents, but don't be afraid to make that first step. I really urge you. Now you've got the knowledge, you've got the skills now that I've talked to you over the last couple of videos about what you need to do to start creating videos now on your phone. So absolutely take the plunge and take action. You will not regret it. And so long as you've got a clear idea of what information, what value you're imparting to your audience, you are good to go. And, you know, always approach your video content with them. What's in it for me from the audience's perspective? As long as you've got that front and center in your mind, you will not go far wrong. Listen, guys, I really, really hope you've got loads and loads of value out of this video. If you have, absolutely, like I said before, smash the like button. Get subscribed if you want to. That'd be amazing. Stick around, because there is a video coming up which is all about the third part of creating video, which is the editing process. But do not let that stop you from creating videos now. Go out and create, because we can always edit later. Okay, so start going out there, start getting yourself used to being in front of the camera. Ladies and gents, I hope that's been really useful to you. The free YouTube resources there, business video guide URL, pop there, put your email details in there. We'll be delighted to send you your 20-page guide if that's what you want to do. Ladies and gents, thanks for bearing with me. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. See you soon in the next one. Take care. Cheerio. Bye-bye.